expressed on this program are those of the host and guests, and not necessarily those of Clear Channel Management. Now, here's the host of El Paso Public Forum, Melissa Kerr.
Not only is he an NCO, a non-commissioned officer in the U.S. Army, and also a great place drum. Father of three, but he's also an author, as I welcome Lincoln Crisler to the El Paso Public Forum. Hi, Lincoln. Your wife was listening one time when I was talking to one of the POWs in the Iraqi War and said, you know, my husband writes some nice books, too. Let's let him talk about it. And you've got a book signing coming up. You just had one at Barnes & Noble on Viscount yesterday, and coming up Saturday, the 10th,
I'm on the radio.
from 2 to 4, you'll be at the Barnes & Noble on Television.
Talking about what a bad baby you are.
Looking forward to that, huh?
Absolutely. It's always a good time.
Yeah. And your latest book is called what?
Magic and Misery.
Now, this is a compilation of about a bunch of short stories. Is that right?
That's right. It's a collection of 10 short stories, just like my first book was.
All right. You've been writing fiction for publication since 2006. That's about 4 years ago. But tell me when you actually picked up the pen and just started writing.
Probably about 2 seconds after I was born.
You've been writing as a child and everything. What did you write when you were a little kid?
I wrote little kid stuff.
Yeah.
I wrote stories. I still watch Star Trek now. I started watching when I was a little kid. I used to write little science fiction stories. I wrote for a newspaper in high school. So, bit of a well-rounded writing background.
You're from New York. Now, you know, Gene Roddenberry is from El Paso, the man behind Star Trek.
I did not know that.
Yeah. Let's talk about you. So, why did you decide to put about 10 short stories together in a book?
It seemed like a good number. You know, when I put the first book together, Despairs and Delights, I had about 10, and I'm like, you know, this is a good well-rounded book. I got a little sci-fi, I got a little fantasy, I got a little horror, I got some witches, I got some aliens. And this will be a good collection to put out, and it's about time that I stop just sending them out to magazines and websites and put together a book so people can pick it up and get a big gulp instead of just little tastes here and there.
And who is the publisher?
The publisher of my most recent book is Black Magic Books. The man in charge of them is Nick Grabowski. He was involved with one of the Halloween movies back in the day, and he's still very involved in the small press horror community now. Goes to a lot of conventions, pushes a lot of people's work. He's friends with a lot of people. Great guy to be.
I bet you were thrilled when he said, "Yes, I'll be happy to publish you."
Oh, absolutely! I was really thrilled. We had started talking about it online, and I talked to him on the phone actually while I was in the field one time.
Yeah.
And I sent him the manuscript, and when he called me to accept. He didn't just send me an email. He called me, and I was at work, and I almost dropped the phone, and I had to remember to act professional because I was at work in a uniform, and it was. I think I pulled it off. I don't really remember.
Oh, yeah.
It was a bit of a blur.
I know. It's when you get so excited, you try to remember back. What did I say? I was so excited. Lincoln Crisler's Magic and Misery, by the way, he spells magic, M-A-G-I-C-K, is an eclectic mix of supernatural chills, hardcore horror, and good old-fashioned madness and mayhem. Definitely a writer worth keeping an eye on. You've got some wonderful compliments. Crisler's variety of subjects keeps the book fresh and flowing. You'll dig it from another person. Also, an entertaining ride on the dark side and a decent intro to an author to watch for in dark anthologies and magazines. So what you chose not to write about was the war that you encounter, because it was, or are you in the middle of your third deployment?
I just got the third deployment. Just came back a couple weeks ago.
But you decided not to write about that, but mystery and horror and science fiction. That must be a great escape.
It is a good escape. I mean, the writing is kind of a good way to decompress, just like a lot of people read for escape to get away from their work and everything. So, yeah, why sit around and write about the Army? I'm already living it. I can't really top that. So, you know, when I'm done doing work or when I catch a break, I can go write about some zombies or some aliens or something. And,
wow.
You know, it's good relaxation, just like when I pick up a book and read about, you know, what somebody else writes about to get away from real life.
Yeah. So as a child, when you did pick up that pen, were you encouraged by your parents, your teachers, who?
I had a couple of teachers in particular who always encouraged my writing and my reading. They gave me extra book reports and stuff to do to keep me reading.
So they could tell right away.
They could tell right away.
That you had the talent.
And that's the biggest way to nurture anybody who's into writing anyway, is to get them into reading. Just writing by itself isn't enough. They got to read. So they kept me reading. They had me reading harder stuff. They were encouraging me, finding me places to get published.
We should have never gave you candy.
With 3 young children, I would imagine.
50 5-year-old,
15-year-old. Now, I was going to ask you if your kid's old enough to read your stuff, but I was looking into some of it, and maybe it's just a little too racy in some areas for the kids that are under 15.
Parts of it. I wouldn't give it to younger kids, but my 15-year-old, she reads the Twilight series. I can't really imagine that
Okay.
my books are a little bit darker and grittier than that. Not too bad for your teenagers. Your younger kids might want to wait.
What inspires you to write?
Not really sure how to answer that one.
Now, how do you go about the process? Do you wake up, you go over to your office, you begin writing, or you just write it down on a piece of paper, and there's a napkin on the table? How do you go about the process?
It's kind of haphazard. I wish I was so lucky to have a routine, but I don't. I can maybe maintain a routine for like a week or two before something happens that just makes me have to restructure my time and do the writing at a different time or in a different way. I just sit down and I find time to write, and when I find time to write, I'll reread everything that I've written before of that story.
Okay.
And then, get me in the mood, and then I'll just start writing again.
Yeah. And do you ever wake up in the middle of the night with a great idea and just get up, turn the light on, start writing? Or at least write that idea down?
I at least write the idea down.
So it bugs you, huh?
When I first started out, I did not have a notebook. I didn't think I needed it. I was kind of cocky and thought that I could trust my own memory, because I can still remember where I went to school for kindergarten. Sure, I can remember the story. Kind of didn't work out that way. So after forgetting a couple of really good ones, I got a little note file on my laptop. If I get an idea while I'm piddling around on the internet, I'll put it in a notepad file real quick, or I'll write it on a notebook, and then I actually remember my ideas now.
Okay. So do you usually actually use like a pen and pencil, or do you go straight to computer like a notebook? Or
it's fun to sit down and write with a pen and paper, old school, vintage. But the computer's a lot easier. The thing with with writing it out by hand is then I've got to type it in again anyway. And it's kind of cool when I write my first draft in the computer, I only have to retype a whole, 5,000-page story. 10,000-word story by hand again, or retype it. I can just edit right there in the document.
All right, so you do it all. You don't get your wife involved at all.
I have people who read.
Okay. Yeah, you say like, check this out, let me know.
Sure.
And they give you they give comments.
That's a big part of writing, actually.
And how do you handle these comments?
Sometimes I have to ignore them.
Okay.
Because I have to see. I have to figure out where they're coming from.
Yeah.
Sometimes I do know best because I'm the writer. But if I hear the same complaint or the same criticism like 2 or 3 times, then maybe I'm wrong. And I do workshop online with a group. I have a small exclusive group that workshops in a forum on my website that I set up for that. Some other writer friends of mine just jumped at the chance for us to all work together. And then there's some available on the internet that the public can join if they wanted to.
Okay.
And I've met some great people through that as well.
You bet. Now, is your website LincolnChrysler.com?
.info, actually.
.info?
I had the .com, and it lapsed. I think I was out in the field.
Oh,
and somebody snatched it up, and they want to sell the domain back to me for something like $300.
Oh, of course.
I'm not going to play that game. The .info is open, and everybody knows where it's at now. So I win.
Lincoln spelled normally, Lincoln, Chrysler, just the way it sounds, CRISLER.info. So LincolnChrysler.info if you want to go to his website. Again, another comment. His talent with the mechanical craft of prose is undeniable. His stories wield a distinctive, uncompromising edge. To enter Lincoln's world is not to tread lightly, because very often that bad thing you fear so much waits just around the corner, hungry and lurking. So everybody's going to get a chance to buy your book there, Barnes & Noble, called Magic and Misery. This is the one that you'll be signing. Coming up this Saturday from 2 till 4. Hello, Las Cruces. He's coming up to see you at Barnes & Noble, 700 South Tell Shore, there in Las Cruces. So circle your calendar for the 10th, 2 to 4, to meet Lincoln. Well, it's been great. I want to know if you've got any final comments. You've had several other books out. Do you want to give us some of their names?
My other collection of short stories is called Despairs and Delights.
Yeah.
It came out in 2008 through Arctic Wolf Publishing. If you missed my signing in El Paso and you won't be able to make the signing in Cruces, I do sell autographed copies, $10 a copy, U.S. shipping included, through my website, LincolnChrysler.info.
Okay.
If you want to check me out and get a sample of some other people's work, you can go to my website, and there's ordering information for a book called Abominations through Shroud Publishing. Includes my story, Old Stoopy and Lou, and I think like 16 stories by some other great authors.
Will you be staying here in El Paso for a while? You're stationed at Fort Bliss. Are you going?
For a while, you mean until June? June.
Oh, okay. And then you're deployed again?
No, in June I'm going to be going to a new station from Gordon, Georgia,
Oh, yeah.
where I've been from. I did training there before. Great place to visit. Hopefully it'll be a great place to stay.
Excellent.
I've been in El Paso for 3 years.
Well,
El Paso's been real good to me, and I'm sorry to leave, but it's the nature of the beast.
Yes, it is. And we certainly had a great time talking with you, Lincoln, and we want to wish you lots of luck in the future. Keep us in mind, and hopefully a lot more to come out of your pen in the way of wonderful books. It's Lincoln Crisler, and again, if you want to check him out at Barnes & Noble in Las Cruces, Saturday, April 10th, 2 to 4, or go over to his website, lincolncrisler.info. Good luck, and thank you for your service to our country.
Thanks for having me.
It's called Open Your Hearts to Newborns in